It's about when I was 3, I got for Christmas, I got a drum, plastic drum. I have very vivid memories of sitting and playing with this drum. And I took to it instinctively, I think.
Phil Collins is undoubtedly one of the most legendary musicians in rock history, not only for his work as the frontman of Genesis and his immensely successful solo career, but also for his impeccable skills behind the drum kit. While many casual listeners associate him with pop ballads and radio-friendly hits, true music enthusiasts know that drumming has always been at the core of Collins' identity. From early days with Genesis to his work on film soundtracks and collaborations with some of the biggest names in music, Collins has showcased a drumming style that's both technical and emotionally driven. But like any great musician, Collins was inspired by the work of others. And over the years, he's spoken at length about his admiration for drummers who shaped his own approach to the instrument. The influence of Ringo Starr.
But Ringo, a fantastic drummer. And he came in for a lot of stick, there was a period when, in the 70s, I think, probably, when, people like Buddy Rich were saying Ringo couldn't play, and everyone was sort of thinking it was very simple, but it just wasn't. If you listen to the drum fills on Strawberry Fields Forever, or A Day in the Life, or Rain is another example. I mean, it's just staggering what he did, and he didn't ever do anything that you would normally do.
One of the first drummers that made a lasting impact on Phil Collins was the Beatles' Ringo Starr. Though often overlooked in favor of more technically flashy drummers, Ringo played an essential role in defining the Beatles' sound and was instrumental in elevating the role of drummer in popular music. Collins has always been a staunch defender of Ringo's abilities, challenging the common misconception that he was a mediocre drummer. Collins once explained how the Beatles' music completely framed his life as a young musician. He spoke in awe about how the sound of their records still impresses him to this day, especially when he focuses on Ringo's contributions behind the kit. According to Collins, Starr had a unique way of making the drums stand out, bringing them from the background and allowing listeners to appreciate the depth of his playing. He pointed out specific examples, such as the drum parts in Tomorrow Never Knows and A Day in the Life, which he considers nothing short of revolutionary. One of his favorite examples of Ringo's brilliance is the drumming on All My Lovin'. While it might seem like a straightforward shuffle to casual listeners, Collins insisted that executing it correctly requires an immense amount of skill. Ringo's subtle variations, his fluid movements across the kit, and his ability to serve the song while adding his own distinctive touch set him apart. Collins saw Ringo as a drummer who wasn't concerned with flashy solos or technical complexity, but instead focused on creating grooves that perfectly complemented the Beatles' music. The powerhouse that was John Bonham.
I got to work with Phil Collins a few years ago, right at the beginning of us working together, and I told him a funny story because Phil loved my dad and said he saw him before he was in Zeppelin, and he said, I said, well, when you released Duke and the Turn It On Again came out, and you just beat my dad in the Melody Maker Drum Awards poll. So he got me to learn Turn It On Again by Genesis as a 12-year-old kid.
Right.
So I'm 12 and he's on the drum kit and put it on the jukebox and ding, 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 ding. So I'm playing along with it. So I do it about 3 times. He goes, do it again. About 3rd time, he went, got it. He goes, I don't know what the big fuss is about. My 12-year-old boy can play that song.
If Ringo Starr introduced Collins to the idea of groove and musicality, John Bonham was the drummer who showed him the sheer power and intensity that drums could bring to rock music. As the backbone of Led Zeppelin, Bonham revolutionized drumming with his thunderous bass drum technique, impeccable sense of groove, and commanding presence behind the kit. Collins recalled how he first became aware of Bonham's playing when he saw him perform before Zeppelin had even solidified their legendary status. At that time, the band was still known as the New Yardbirds, and Collins was immediately drawn to Bonham's drumming. From that moment on, he followed Bonham's career closely, always in awe of his ability to blend technical prowess with raw emotion. One of the aspects of Bonham's drumming that most impressed Collins was his mastery of the bass drum. He claimed no one had a better bass drum sound than Bonham, and he became obsessed with trying to replicate that level of power in his own playing. Bonham's use of dynamics, his innovative triplets, and his ability to make a simple groove feel absolutely massive all left a profound impact on Collins. Buddy Rich. Though Collins was heavily influenced by rock drummers, his admiration for jazz percussionists was just as strong. Among them, Buddy Rich stood out as an undisputed legend. Collins went so far as to call Rich the greatest drummer of all time, a title that many jazz enthusiasts would agree with. Buddy Rich's drumming was defined by his mind-blowing speed, precision, and technical expertise. Collins first became captivated by Rich's playing when he heard the famous West Side Story medley in 1965. Even decades later, Collins remained in awe of Rich's performance, calling it one of the most incredible pieces of drumming he'd ever heard. Unlike many jazz drummers, who focus primarily on swing, Rich brought an intensity and aggression to his playing that Collins found mesmerizing. He was not just a drummer, he was a showman, a musician who commanded the audience's attention with his unparalleled skill. Outside of jazz, Rich's influence extended far and wide, inspiring rock drummers and fusion musicians alike. Phil Collins is #1 ranked drummer.
Say, Kermit, I understand for the show's finale you want me to do some kind of a drum battle.
Oh, yeah, I just love drum battles.
Okay, who do I battle? The other guy, you know, the one that loses.
After years of praising various drummers, Collins finally revealed his absolute favorite, you guessed it, Buddy Rich. While he had deep admiration for Ringo Starr's feel, John Bonham's power, and Keith Moon's wild energy, it was Rich's unparalleled technical ability that cemented his place at the top of Collins's list. Collins acknowledged that Buddy Rich had a controversial reputation due to his fiery personality, but he believed Rich's talent on the drums was undeniable. In Collins's eyes, Rich embodied everything a drummer should be: fast, precise, and deeply expressive. His ability to command an audience with a drum solo alone was something Collins found astonishing. Collins often credited Rich's playing as a guiding force in his own drumming style, pushing him to explore new techniques and rhythms. The Jazz Connection, Tony Williams and Steve Gadd.
I was asked to play in a Grammy salute to jazz.
While Phil Collins is best known for his contributions to rock and pop, his drumming style was deeply influenced by jazz. Among the jazz drummers who left a significant mark on his playing, two names stand out: Tony Williams and Steve Gadd. Both of these drummers played pivotal roles in shaping the sound of jazz fusion. Tony Williams was a groundbreaking drummer who made his mark playing with Miles Davis in the 60s. Collins was particularly drawn to Williams' ability to blend technical mastery with a raw, aggressive energy that was uncommon in jazz at the time. Unlike many traditional jazz drummers who focused on keeping a steady swing rhythm, Williams played with an almost chaotic intensity that made his drumming feel explosive and unpredictable. Collins admired how Williams could take a simple groove and turn it into something intricate and dynamic. One of the things that stood out to Collins about Williams was his ability to make drum solos genuinely captivating. Collins once admitted he wasn't usually a fan of drum solos, feeling that they often became self-indulgent, but Williams was one of the few drummers who could keep him completely engaged. Another jazz drummer Collins deeply admired was Steve Gadd, a session musician whose versatility made him one of the sought-after drummers of all time. Gadd's playing was characterized by his impeccable groove, precise control, and ability to effortlessly shift between genres. Collins first became aware of Gadd's playing through his work with artists like Steely Dan and Paul Simon, particularly his legendary drum solo on Asia. Gadd's drumming style was different from the bombastic approach of rock drummers like John Bonham or Keith Moon. Instead, he played with a level of restraint and finesse that made his grooves feel both effortless and deeply complex. Collins' drumming legacy.
Tonight is a very special night. Of course, we're playing in London, and it's the last stop of our tour. And It's the last show for Genesis.
Although Phil Collins spent much of his later career focusing on singing, his love for drumming never faded. Even as health issues forced him to step away from the kit, he continued to appreciate and discuss the art of drumming, passing his passion on to the next generation. One of the most emotional moments in his later career came when he handed over the drumming duties for Genesis to his son, Nick Collins. As Phil's health deteriorated due to nerve damage and back problems, he could no longer physically play the drums the way he used to. But rather than bringing in an outside drummer, Genesis kept it in the family, allowing Nick to take his father's place behind the kit. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think of Phil Collins' choice for his favorite drummer of all time? Let us know in the comment section below.